Amnesty International has more than 6 decades of experience documenting human rights violations in situations of conflict, social unrest, where authoritarian practices have become the norm. But we were not understanding how all of this is interconnected. Be There enabled us not only to strengthen our capacity to bring better understanding and experts into the teams, but more importantly, to work together in a more comprehensive way to address the systemic nature of the conditions that are creating these human rights violations.
I first heard of Be There on my very first day at Amnesty. And the way that it was presented was, what would be the best way to possibly do your job?
Amnesty International says security forces are carrying out a systematic, organized, and ruthless campaign against the Rohingya.
We've developed an incredible body of evidence on the conflict in Myanmar. We've documented mortar attacks, attacks by the army, artillery, cluster munitions. We've documented airstrikes throughout the country.
Amnesty International says military airstrikes, quote, reflecting its signature policy of collective punishment of civilian communities.
One project has added to the other, where we were able to take all of our airstrike work and then turn that project into a much larger project on jet fuel overall. You can't just show up with, 1,000-word press release and expect an oil company to change their business practices. You have to have the business records, the shipping data, the tracking off the AIS. You have to have the deep knowledge of the airstrikes and be able to tie everything together. That takes time, and that's something that Be There has allowed us to have. When you've been working on a conflict for as long as we've had, you do become the recognized expert. And because our team has been together for so long now, this doesn't just apply to Myanmar. This is true in Sudan.
International says that more crimes
we have a similar knowledge base on U.S. operations throughout the Middle East. It can be work in Gaza, the war on drugs in the Philippines, Boko Haram in Nigeria. We are the continuity to understand the dynamics of the conflict. We have evidence that nobody else has. We have testimony and digital evidence that no one else has. And so we're able to work for this future international justice. The work that we're doing now in 2025 is all based upon that initial promise where we really did get the resources, recruit the talent, and build a team that was able to do things that nobody else could.
I remember the very, very early days of the Evidence Lab. Back then, we were just a handful of people testing new methods, experimenting with new tools. One of the first projects that really marked a turning point in the history of the Evidence Lab was our investigation into the Raqqa War.
This is a war of annihilation, says the United States.
To get rid of the extremists, US coalition airstrikes have inadvertently killed civilians.
We partnered with colleagues who spent months on the ground, interviewing people, visiting locations where these bombs dropped. But that still didn't give a comprehensive picture of what happened, when it happened, who was responsible. So we added this layer of digital evidence. We asked thousands of digital volunteers to help us analyze satellite images to establish the exact time when buildings were destroyed during the war.
A new report from Amnesty International says airstrikes potentially amount to war crimes.
this was a turning point, ensuring that digital investigations were no longer a sort of add-on to projects, but they were part of the core research methodology. We run training courses in the methods of digital verification. Students work on real-life projects with us. The use of tear gas, the use of batons, kinetic impact projectiles. All these investigations was based on thousands of videos analyzed and authenticated by students around the world.
The legacy of this work will be the hundreds of students who have come through the digital verification core. With the rise of authoritarianism, with the increase in deep fakes, we really do need a next generation who can make sure that the facts that get out into the world are as accurate as possible.
We are no longer an experimental team. We're setting research agendas across the organization. Digital investigations are now part of Amnesty's DNA. We are seeing more and more uses of AI, some beneficial to research, but at the same time we see a lot of danger. So we really have to be able, as an organization, to face these new challenges, and having the Evidence Lab as an established team at the core of research gives us a really good fighting chance.
Our work is typically about rapid response, about the situation now. Be There gave us the opportunity to build this strategic plan of how can we balance rapid response with the needs of the most marginalized and at-risk communities. People with disabilities, older people, children, and women. The Sierra Leone report looked at the long-term impact of crises, the mental health impact that stays with people for decades.
Many victims continue to carry the mental and physical scars.
We were able to highlight the voices of academics and mental health experts who've been saying for years that the way we respond to mental health needs in crises has not been adequate. This particular project led to us collaborating deeply with civil society to push the government to better provide for the needs and rights of people with mental health conditions.
The need is so huge, the need is so great. The government is trying to build institutional capacity and capabilities to be able to respond to that need.
The work will only continue to evolve because we've learned, project after another, how to create real impact. So we've seen, for example, with the Yemen report, that accessible latrines were provided. We've seen the Kurdistan regional government including children in the reparation schemes for the survivors of IS violations. And we've pushed for the creation of a convention on the rights of older persons. And so our thematic work has really created impact both in terms of actual services, policy changes, and long-term international law changes. We've built our involvement, we've built our name, and now our movement is committed to continue on this very impactful work.
We're always ambitious in the work that we do, but sometimes the ambition cannot be matched by resources. Be There gave us the opportunity to follow not only the conflict or the crisis, but also its consequences. So community sponsorship was at the beginning an incredibly ambitious project because there was an idea that only existed in a few countries and it was very small. And we took it and we ran with it.
Now, Syrian
family has described the amazing welcome they've received in Ireland since becoming the first refugees to arrive here under a new community-led resettlement programme.
When we first arrived to Ireland, our chairperson, Nola, she waved at us and she was, oh, we know you, we know you. Leaving your country under a refugee status, being from a certain background, from a certain religion, so many things can go wrong. But if you have people to talk to and if you have people to come knock on your door, you know you're safe from the first moment.
Within a few months, somebody called me and told me that there are 2 families who arrived here. And they are Syrian, they don't have language, they don't have anything, and they believe that we can help. Believe it or not, we still contact Michigan. We still
like they're still supporting us, we're still supporting them.
One of the most important things that Be There has allowed us to do has been to prioritize long-term strategic work. So, for example, litigation. Litigation is not necessarily covered in the news, but the impact of a good judgment reverberates across countries and in time. We address the root causes of the displacement, the reason why people have to flee. So, for example, the climate crisis. We also look at migration and asylum through a racial justice lens. Exploitation, racism, discrimination. We want to attack the roots of the really degrading negative treatment against refugees and migrants. We're not going to solve it in a year or 2, but now we know that it pays to do the big thinking and to be ambitious in our work.
I think one thing for me that I've learned over the period of time is that I can only assume the challenges that people face. And so we have to give urgency to the community that we work with to make sure that they can be able to speak it out themselves.
We were this group of marginalized refugees in Kakuma refugee camp, suffering homophobic attacks day in, day out.
They were speaking out on social media, mentioning what's happening in the community, and so they were really marked by the police.
It reminds me of this one time that because I went live on Facebook, I was called by the police boss. I always phoned Victor and I was like, Victor, I'm being called by the police boss. I really don't know what's going to happen. I might be imprisoned. I might be beaten because sometimes they did.
It's not only just writing reports that bring changes. Even a phone call to a person who is violating other people's rights can bring a change to such a situation.
We went to these interrogations to confront our oppressors, strongly knowing that we are having Amnesty International support behind us. My work as an activist was protected, my voice was protected, my life, my freedom, my rights, they were protected.
We plant the seed of defiance in the community so that when we are not there, they can be able to do it by themselves.
The State of the World report that we have just issued is the most alarming report we have ever issued. The world, of course, has shifted over the last 7 years. We are seeing authoritarianism rising all over the world.
CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president.
Activists say security forces are moving.
But we are also a total different organization of the one that we were 7 years ago. Be there, give us the opportunity to try, to test, to learn from each of the projects, one initiative to the other. The expertise, the talent that we have, the alliances that we have built. Be there has given us the tools to push for systemic change.